What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. Today we're going to be talking about a specific bait that everybody talks about during the fall. So whether it's content creators or whether it's the pros or whatever, it's buzzbait, buzzbait, buzzbait. And the buzzbait is like one of the perfect lures in my opinion during the fall. But there is one big misconception that a lot of anglers doesn't really talk about when it comes to the buzzbait, and necessarily how to choose your buzzbaits. What kind of buzzbait do you want? Do you want double blades? Do you want one that squelches? Do you want one that's kind of quiet, just kicks back water? You know, what kind of trailer do I use? I'm going to go over that. I'm going to break it all down. So stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. So real quick, you know the deal, do all the cool kid stuff. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button, especially if you like the video. It's a great way to help support the channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're down there and comment if you have any questions, anything you want to add, or you just want to talk fishing. I love hearing from you guys. So you may be wondering, like, what made me kind of want to talk about the buzzbait today? And one of the biggest reasons that I want to talk about the buzzbait is we had a benefit tournament that we just fished, and it was one of those days to where, you know, high pressure, so clear skies, not hardly any clouds, just a little bit of wind. Some areas there was a good bit of wind at certain times, and clean water. And you know, typically when you hear all that, you typically think, okay, I don't need to be throwing a buzzbait today. But we caught fish from 7 a.m. from when the tournament started till 3 o'clock that evening. Never put the buzzbait down and caught fish all day long. We even had the winning fish. They just ended up, two of them ended up getting off at the boat. We ended up in 4th place, but either way, let's jump into it. So the actual buzzbait that I was using on this typical day was the Bushwhacker Bravalo Custom Lures. It's a Weed Whackers, what they call it. It's a super tiny buzzbait. And it was just one of those type deals to where this bait, even though it's so small, it's easy to cast. Once you get your trailer on there, you can put it in a bunch of different places. It's tiny and it's got a good sound to it. It's kind of got that squelch. It's got that tick from the BB that's on the side right here. I highly suggest anybody that's fishing ponds or lakes to definitely pick this bait up. This is one of those definite go-to. They're like 10 bucks. Now the trailer that I was using on this buzzbait in particular was the Mooch Minnow. Okay, I like the Mooch Minnow on the back of this, and it's the 3.5 inch Mooch Minnow, but I like the Mooch Minnow on the back of this. It just buttons up perfect, and 99% of the time when those fish hit that bait, they've got it. I mean, you don't really have to worry about it. You don't really have to set the hook. You can kind of just pull into them. You can tell when they get it. I mean, they eat it. And there's one reason that I particularly chose the Weed Whacker buzzbait over like the full-blown size Bushwhacker or maybe a different brand or different style buzzbait. And that's simply because we were dealing with those high pressure conditions and we were dealing with clean water. What we thought was going to happen was we were going to be dealing with muddy water, but we were not dealing with muddy water at all, even after all the rain. So this bait is kind of like that finesse bait where you're going to catch a lot of fish off of it. You're going to catch big fish. You're going to catch decent fish. If you're just going out there to catch a lot of fish, the Weed Whacker is going to be the deal. And this is not a sponsored segment. I do not work with Bravalo Custom Lures or anything that I talk about. I'm not working with any of these companies. It's literally just straight line. This is what I used and how I caught them. So the areas we were really looking for, we're dealing with kind of a highland reservoir, but it's also got a lot of grass on that lake, and it's got willow grass. And a lot of this is died off, okay? So there's not really any green grass growing anywhere, but a lot of these large heads were pushed like right on the edge of that grass off these like secondary points. And when I say secondary point, I don't mean a physical secondary point like where you've got the bank coming out and you can physically see that secondary point. But what I'm talking about is those areas where it's flat and you got a grass line that goes flat, and then it's got a little indentation on the outside and then a little indentation on the outside. Those large heads were typically sitting on the edge of those secondary grass points, okay? Once again, grass points, not land points. Now my partner, he was using a custom hand-built buzzbait that day that was very similar to the Weed Whacker. It was just larger. It was more like your typical War Eagle size buzzbait, but he was throwing the spunk shad on it, which is he was throwing a swim bait on it at the time and was not getting the bite, so I told him to put a spunk shad on it. He put the spunk shad on it, natural electric shad color, and then that's when the bite lights started firing off for him, so we're catching multiple fish back to back to back in those typical areas. I noticed when we got to the lake that the water temperature had actually, you know, a couple weeks before, the main lake was like 71 degrees. And, you know, you'd push up in the backs of these creeks and stuff, and the water temperature was like 63, 64. So, you know, quite a bit of difference, almost a 10-degree difference. One of the main things that I noticed was when we first got there was the water temperature on the main lake was at 63, 64 degrees. So we make a run all the way to the backs of the creek to check and see what the water temperature was like in the back of the creeks. Has it went down? Has it went up? So on and so forth. Where's that thermocline? And it was the exact same as the main lake. So that tells me a lot of these fish that may have been in areas that I was focusing on before could migrate. Now the fish that's in the very, very backs of the creeks are typically going to stay there. That's where they're going to be. They're just kind of going to move to the nearest, deepest water that they can find in that creek. And that could be 100 yards or that could be a couple miles. It just kind of depends. But that tells me that these fish are more than likely going to be spread out as they was. They were not going to be schooled up, and that if we were going to target a winning bag of fish, we were going to have to find those largemouth that were spread out in certain isolated areas. And that's exactly what we did. Now let's talk about the setup, because this is going to be one of the most important things when you're using a buzz bait, because a lot of people I see when they use buzz baits, they get trigger happy on them. And what I mean by that is they'll see the fish come up or follow that buzz bait, hit the buzz bait, and they're setting the hook too early and pulling that bait away. So the setup is going to be very, very important. Now the first part is going to be personal preference. It's whatever you prefer. Me personally, if I can get away with it, I'm going to run fluorocarbon. 15 to 20 pound fluoro, okay? That's typically what I like to run on my buzz baits, okay? If I don't have 20, I'll throw 15. It doesn't make that big of a difference. The main thing is with fluoro, it does not have as much stretch as mono, but it does have more stretch than braid. So what happens is when those fish come up and they go to strike that bait, you give them a split second like you're frog fishing and kind of reel into them and pull, okay? With a buzz bait, you're gonna reel and pull into them. Frog, you set the hook, you wanna get those big hooks through, but we're not dealing with big hooks. We're dealing with a thinner wire hook, whether you're using a weed whacker or one of the other buzz baits. You don't necessarily have to set that hook. You kind of just pull into them. I mean, you may want to pop it just a little bit, but you know, you don't have to just rear back, and you're not flipping is what I'm saying. Now, secondly, the reel is going to be very, very important. I like a higher speed reel, not too fast. I don't like going with like an 8 1-to-1 or something like that, but you'll notice a lot of times if you're fishing a lake, that you typically have to stay way off the bank or something like that, and you're making long casts, you want a faster reel, okay? Yes, you're going to lose torque, but you can catch up to that line really, really quick and get that buzz bait on the surface for a longer period of time. That was one of the keys to throwing the buzz bait that day, was I'm casting that bait far, and then I'm reeling real fast, get that bait up on top of the water, and then as soon as it gets on top of the water, I can slow down with that 7:3 to 1 gear ratio and keep that bait on the surface instead of just scooting, it's just tick, 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 tick across the surface. It's slow, it's methodical, it's just perfect for those water temps. Now, the second is going to be the rod. The rod's going to be very, very important. A lot of people like throwing heavy action rods. You'll hear some people that like throwing medium action rods. I do not like a medium action rod for a buzz bait. I do not like a heavy action rod for a buzz bait. The heavy rods typically, in my opinion, are way too stiff, so I like going with a medium heavy, something in that 7 foot to 7'3" range. This one right here is a 7'1" medium heavy. It's an impulse rod. It's a Lance's fight rod, one of my favorite rods in the whole world. It just makes everything when you're working that buzz bait and you're presenting that buzz bait perfect. Buy whatever you can afford, buy whatever you're comfortable with. Does not matter to me, but the rod itself, 7'1", medium heavy, that's going to be that perfect in between. You can buy certain buzz baits that you can skip a lot easier. With a 7'1", you're not dealing with that, you know, super long cadence or anything like that. You can be very, very precise at close range and still also make those long casts. Now, when choosing a buzz bait, why would I choose one over the other? Why would I want one that squelches? Why would I want one with 2 blades on it? Why would I want one with a black blade? Why would I want one with a white blade? Why would I want one with a gold? So on and so forth. You get the point. Now, if I'm dealing with clean water, there's 2 things that I really, really like to focus on when it comes to my buzz baits. Number one is going to be finesse. So if I'm dealing with a finesse situation where I want to finesse buzz bait, I'm gonna go to something like that weed whacker. It's a small buzz bait, it's compact, mimics small shad very, very well, especially with that mooch minnow trailer, but it's not overly loud, okay? It's not the crazy person in Walmart running around screaming, but it's the one that everybody can hear, you know, just a couple aisles down. Now the other situation, maybe I'm fishing somewhere where, you know, there's like big gizzard shad or something like that. That's typically when I like to go with something like that War Eagle, okay? The War Eagle, just simple buzz bait. There's no clackers, nothing on this. It's just got kind of like a little bit of a squelch sound, okay? These right here are absolutely perfect for just about any situation, but they're not overdoing it, okay? I mean, you can choose the difference between, you know, you can pick a redhead or black or, you know, whatever the case may be. If you don't want anything on it, get your piece of sandpaper, sand the color off of it, whatever. Get you some fingernail polish if you wanted a special color, like a green pumpkin or, you know, something else, whatever you prefer to do. But the quieter buzz bait, I say quieter, it's not super quiet, but the quieter buzz bait compared to others is going to be your go-to in clear water, clean water, situations where you're dealing with, you know, high pressure condition. If you look at all my buzz baits that I have a bunch of buzz baits here, and all these buzz baits, none of them have skirts on it. Some people like skirts on their buzz baits, and I don't think one catches more fish than the other, but to me, I just prefer not having to deal with a skirt falling off or tearing up or anything like that. I can throw swim baits on it. I can put, you know, different minnow style baits, frogs, whatever you prefer to throw on a buzz bait and not really have to deal with it. So in my opinion, I don't think the skirt makes a whole lot of difference. Maybe in the colder water temps it does, because it's going to give that bait more of action. There's going to be more of a flutter on top of the water, so you know, it may be less productive during the late fall going into winter, and then more productive during the early spring, mid-spring. Now, when would I want that loud squelch? I want that loud squelch, that loud tick, those double blades, anytime that water is super dirty. Super dirty water, super muddy water. I'm talking you can't see your bait a foot under the water, and I need to make a lot of noise. It just helps these fish hone in on, you know, where this bait is and what's going on in that particular area. They can just hone in on it a lot easier, and it makes a lot of fish that are typically not that aggressive very aggressive. You would be surprised at how cold the water can be, and you can still get bit and catch a lot of fish off a buzz bait. We've done it before in 51-degree water temps, okay? Super cold water temps, and the only thing we can get them to bite is a buzz bait. It's insane, it's a fun bite. Now, the other part to a buzz bait, I hear a lot of people, and I've had a lot of you guys comment asking about buzz baits before, or messaging me also about, I just don't catch that many fish off a buzz bait, and I completely understand. I was one of those people. I didn't really throw buzz baits a whole lot till a couple years ago, and I really started experimenting with them and kind of understanding where those bites come from. And then another thing, and this is the biggest thing if you want to catch more fish on a buzz bait, that is confidence in the bait that you are using. What I mean by that is having confidence that every cast you're going to catch a fish, even though you're not. The confidence as you're reeling that bait back to the boat, that you're not giving up mid-cast and start reeling it in. There were so many fish yesterday that we caught that was halfway in between the bank and the boat, areas that you wouldn't think they would be catching, or where you would catch a fish. These fish, some of these fish were following that bait a long ways out from the bank to eat that particular bait. So, you know, don't give up on that cast, stay confident in it. And the buzz bait's not typically one that you kind of want to just throw a couple times, set down, throw a couple times and set down. You're going to make 100 casts before you catch one, but typically when you catch one, it's going to be a good fish, it's going to be an aggressive fish, and it's a fun bite. It's so much fun. So if you're going on a day where you want to practice with a buzz bait, make sure you're throwing that buzz bait confidently. Make sure you're reeling that bait all the way back to the boat. Don't give up half cast. And when you throw that bait at cover, maybe some type of cover at the bank, make sure you throw past that cover and then bring that bait over the cover, around the cover, beside the cover, and make multiple casts. Make multiple casts at that particular area that you think that fish is, that you're confident where that fish is. Just like the video from a couple weeks ago when I'm throwing at that dock. I made 3 or 4 casts at that dock before that fish finally committed. That's one thing with the content creation, you know, a lot of you guys on the other side don't get to see. You get to see the highlights and stuff, but there's a lot of struggle that goes into it and a big learning curve. So you kind of get to skip that grind and then get to enjoy the learning curve, which is great. And I love being able to do that. So either way, guys, if the video helped you at all, hit that thumbs up, subscribe down below, comment if you have any questions or you just want to talk fishing. Love y'all. See y'all next time.